So one question I get all the time from young filmmakers in the industry is, what gear should I get? What camera should I get? What software should I buy? And it's a legitimate question because obviously you want to be using the same tools that the professionals use. But when students and young filmmakers ask this question, they usually get the same response, and it's something to the effect of, gear doesn't matter, and the best camera is the one that's in your hands, and the best software is whatever's on your computer. And to a large extent, I really agree with that sentiment. It would be amazing if a genius with an iPhone would always outperform someone who knows nothing with $1 million crew. But the reality of the situation is that's just not true. And it hasn't been true, and even with the advent of Vine and YouTube and Vimeo, it still isn't true. Gear really does truly matter. And here's why. Think about this question. When was the last time a YouTuber became a Hollywood filmmaker? I can think of maybe 2 or 3 instances. When was the last time a Vine star became, a mainstream television creator or showrunner? It hasn't really happened yet. And it's not because these creators are worse or because YouTube is somehow not as good as Hollywood. It's just that YouTube is YouTube, Vine is Vine, Vimeo is Vimeo, and Hollywood is Hollywood. And the age of filmmaking on YouTube is kind of over. I mean, that's a little debatable, but if you just look at the kind of content that YouTube is pushing, filmmaker content is very much not doing well on YouTube. If you want to be a YouTuber or a Vine star, I guess Vine doesn't exist anymore, but if you want to be a YouTuber, honestly, your gear doesn't really matter that much. It's really the quality of your product and your content, which is amazing. But if you want to join the Hollywood system or, Atlanta or New York, or be on sets making movies that make it onto Netflix and TV and theaters, you need to understand that gear actually really does matter a lot. Whenever you watch a panel about directors talking about young filmmakers, they like to talk about how everyone has a movie camera in their pocket. Everyone's got a phone. I've got a Google Pixel, and right there, that's a movie camera, and I can make a movie with that. That's true in theory, but I don't know if any of you have ever shot anything on a smartphone before, but it's a nightmare. There's a variable frame rate that you can't handle unless you drop it into Premiere or Avid. It just baffles me to think that a young filmmaker can be expected to succeed when they're working with the bare minimum tools that probably don't work half the time. And more importantly, you're not gonna get a job shooting something if you show up to set and say, oh, my camera's right here, it's my iPhone. You can shoot a movie on anything these days. Now, on the flip side of that, if you physically own a Red or an Alexa or even like an FS7 or something, you will get jobs. A majority of the DP jobs on, Facebook or Mandy or Production Hub or Craigslist will only hire you if you have on hand a Red or an Alexa or an FS7 or, Vericam or something like that. You can't just show up with an iPhone. And that's just the reality of the situation. If you're trying to work in the visual effects industry and you don't have Houdini or Nuke and you don't have experience in those things, you're not gonna get hired for the big jobs that will give you, the experience that you want. And telling them that gear doesn't matter isn't gonna change their minds. The client knows what they want and they're gonna ask for it. And if you don't have it, they're gonna move on to someone who does. There's a lot of great solutions on the internet, a lot of great YouTube channels that help young filmmakers, build this gear that would cost them tens of thousands of dollars otherwise. But the danger in that is showing up to set with a PVC tripod or with a slider made of industrial parts, and you're editing on a hacked copy of, Premiere CS4 that telegraphs to the client that you aren't 100% serious about what you're doing. And even though that's not a fair judgment, in my opinion, you really don't want to earn the reputation in the industry as someone who is unprofessional, because where you're going to get most of your work is referrals from clients who really liked you. They're not going to recommend you to other people, and finding work is going to be that much harder because they're going to be like, oh, that's the guy who uses, PVC tripods and duct tape camera equipment. Now, I think this probably can sound really discouraging, and I think some of you might be thinking, well, what am I supposed to do? Do I need to go out and buy a Red or an Alexa? And honestly, financial decisions like that are really up to you and your situation. I understand that gear is just so expensive, prohibitively so, A lot of us, even in our wildest dreams, are never gonna get our hands on the cameras that we want to use and the cameras that we would ideally use. I think it's important to be resourceful. If you have a friend who owns a Red, have them camera op on your next project that you're DPing. If you have a friend who has, Creative Cloud and you just really need to get into Premiere and edit something, buy her Chipotle for, a few hours of editing. We're all kind of in this thing together, and I think you'll find people are more willing to help than you might expect. Also, education discounts. If you have a .edu email address, you can get a ton of amazing education discounts on software. Honestly, I grew up a lot less affluent than a lot of my contemporaries. I was always the guy with the worst camera. I always had, janky software. I don't want to give off the impression that if you don't own a Red, or if you don't own Houdini, or don't have, $1 million licenses for great rendering plugins, that you're not gonna make it. That's just not true. If you want to be a VFX artist and you can't afford Houdini or even After Effects, start with a great free program like HitFilm. Those guys are incredible. It's great software. It'll teach you, everything you need to know really about layer-based compositing. It's just an incredible tool, and there are great tools out there, and more software is free. Even if you don't have a Red or an Alexa, a DSLR will teach you the basic concepts like shutter speed and ISO and aperture. And the other thing is, if you get the chance to use a Red or an Alexa or even touch one, do it. Don't be shy. You want to get as much hands-on experience as you can on these things. So when someone says, hey, can you use a Red? You can say, oh yeah, obviously, totally, yeah, I can do that. If it takes reading free manuals online, if it takes looking at tutorials on the internet, do it. You want to get as much experience with professional gear, software, whatever, as you possibly can. So when the time comes to use it in a professional setting, you'll be ready. So in the end, the big takeaway here is that gear really does matter, but it's not everything. It's not the be-all end-all, and it won't make or break your career. Be resourceful, do what you can, try and get your hands on the best gear, best software possible, but make do and know that it's still possible to succeed if you don't have, top of the line stuff. If you guys are looking at specific gear, have any questions about what you should be getting or what professionals in your industry are actually using, feel free to drop me a line and I'll give you advice, anything that I know, anything I can help you with, happy to help. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Have a good one. Woo.